Hello, everybody. It is another conversation. No, Justin is not sitting next to me. It is Max.
Yes.
We are here
I'm Justin with a very, very good tan.
We are here with Mr. Chris Candy. Chris, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
I'm doing great. My first question for you, and it might be a very obvious answer, and it might not be, but what made you want to go into acting and comedy?
Oh,
We'll start it off light.
yeah. Well, that was a good podcast, everybody. I'll talk to you guys later. That's a great question. It's funny. I grew up always like performing, but I went through this phase when I was like a kid where I didn't want to follow in my father's footsteps. He's a really legendary comic named John Candy. I'm sure people know him. I really didn't want to follow in his footsteps early on because I was young and I was like trying to figure out who I was. And it just seemed like such an overwhelming path to do. And I think everyone can relate to that in the sense of like, I don't want to do what my family does. It's like, I want to do what my parents do. But I found myself over the course of that, time as I was younger, right? I would be doing plays and I would be on improv teams and I would be, performing in shorts and I just always liked doing it, and then I was always into music. I got really into like punk rock music and ska music and all kinds of stuff. And so that was my journey. But even then when I'd be on the mic, I'd be, cracking jokes. And so it wasn't until I got into college and I was like no longer going to be into touring that I was like, I should give this a shot. And it was comedy that initially, got me going. And from that point on, I met with some people. I was doing sound actually for Clark Duke and Michael Cera on their show, Clark and Michael. And I went to college with Clark. And they called me up one day to do a scene on the show, and I got to work with those two guys, and they're both really, really funny guys, and I felt like I could keep up with them. So in the beginning, I was when that had started, I was like, okay, I think I could do this, and I was so fucking green. I was so green. I had so much learning to do because I thought that I was just gonna I had my only ceiling was like college plays, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna book every commercial. And I went, I think like 6 years without booking a commercial. So but that was really where it started. I think early on it was like a long journey of like dipping my toe in the water, but then really when I look back on it, I had been doing it the whole time.
What's crazy is I can relate to that because I'm not on the same scale, but when I used to work for the company that my dad was really high up at. Everything I did there got compared to him, because he's known throughout the whole company. And so no matter what I did, I had that shadow hanging over me. And it's like, I don't want to be like here, everybody like trying to relate what I'm doing to what he did or what he's doing.
Right. Yeah. What kind of work is it?
It was in Napa Auto Parts. He was like really high up and
oh, cool.
I was working as a driver, but everybody had something to say that kind of,
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because like you want to, you really want to be your own person, and then it gets creepy as you get older, and we all, they look like their parents, we look like our parents, just slowly, and you're like, oh my God. It's an interesting journey, but yeah, that was I can relate to that wholeheartedly.
If I have to say, excellent mustache. I'm really digging that. It's very well done.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations you on that. Like, you did a great job growing that.
I say on the podcast, there's only like 10 people that can pull off a mustache, and I got to say you're definitely one of those 10.
You made the list. Congratulations.
Yeah. If I grew a mustache, just a mustache, I'd look like a guy driving a big van.
Yeah,
that you want to keep your kids away from.
So bad. 7 on mustache, but no, you pulled off. I'm digging your mustache for sure.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, mustache. It's I was working with a coworker. I used to work for Stussy, the clothing company, and my friend I worked with, my friend Brittany, she said, you'd look really good with a mustache, and I was like, okay, and so I tried it, and then up until then I had tried, I would have like girlfriends tell me like you look so stupid with that thing. And then I just needed to get to the right age, and I had worked with some good mustaches, and I knew how to do it. And so when I reinvested my life into a mustache life, I had the right direction.
Well, yeah, you're pulling it off.
That's me with the mustache. It's not.
Oh, anyone could do it. You could do it too,
Not a
man.
good look.
So yeah, I'm scrolling through your IMDb, and this short just jumped out at me, mostly because of the name, and I really want to see it now. So hopefully you can tell me where I can find it. Chowchilla.
Yeah.
It sounds very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Just like what because you're a co-writer on that one, and you're also in it.
Right.
With that.
So Chowchilla is is a short film I wrote with my writing partner Garen Gardner, and Garen and I have been making a ton of stuff together for years. We met in an acting class and out in Los Angeles, and she ended up being my neighbor here in LA, and I had no idea. We had the same commercial agent. We had all these things in common, and we had met randomly in an acting class, and we had always wanted to work on something together. We'd done this show prior to that called Where's This Party, which was this like improv based show that takes place in a car. And we were doing that. And we were wearing wigs, basically. We looked like crazy in Where's This Party. So we wanted to do something that was like kick it up a notch, not wear wigs, have a realistic, a good story. And her husband's family has this farm up in Central California, and it's next to a town named Chowchilla. Chowchilla is this town. It's above Visalia, just north, and it's a bit south of and east of San Francisco. So we started writing this project towards a farm, and what could it be? And the story ended up being like this brother and sister have to sell their family farm. And on the eve of the open house, as they're getting the place ready, a drug drop, a bag of money shows up from a drug drop gone wrong, and they find the money. And it's basically like what happens when two people who need a lot of money all of a sudden are gifted it, and what they do with it. And it's a really fun film. And you can find that on my website, or it's on Vimeo, and it's a great short. And I was also working with in the improv world this guy Rick Darge, who's a good friend of mine as well too, and he's an incredibly talented director, and he had this like amazing camera, and I knew his skill set of like making film was really strong. And it was kind of in my mind like a science experiment. I was like, all right, I'm going to see if Garen will work well with Rick. And it was awesome. It turned out perfectly. And we're all really close friends now, and extended the creative crew that I have out here in Los Angeles. But Chowchilla is fun. It's a beautifully shot film. My sister, she has a part in it, which is really nice. It turned out great. I was really happy with it.
Are you and your sister pretty close?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, definitely.
I know. I saw the name. I was hoping it was some sort of animal, because I was like, I want one. I don't know what it is, but I want it. And now it's a town, so they need to have a music festival or something like that. Chowchilla needs to blow up. Like that.
Yeah. Let's get Chowchilla on the map. Well, it already is, actually. But yeah, the film, when you watch it, kind of unintentionally ends up having this. It feels like it could be an episode of Fargo almost. It's a dark comedy, so I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Please do.
Short films have always been super hard to find until recently. Amazon and Netflix have actually been buying up a bunch of them, so I've been getting into short films, and there's a lot of short films that you've worked on. Do you enjoy the short film format?
Yeah, short form and short film is great. I think if you see a short film, it is a really good gauge on someone's ability and a sight into their creativity, because you have to get a lot of information into a very short period of time. And it's delicate, especially in the era where we're like in with Instagram, Twitter, short films. It just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And now we've all kind of settled on 1 minute, right? If we can all digest that. But I love going into a theater and watching a bunch of shorts, because it's, it really shows, you have to have a solid arc. You kind of have to have an A and a B story. And if it goes too long, people feel it. So it's all of these elements coming together to make this really nice thing. And with that being said, up until recently, you're right, short films weren't being bought. So they either were like a sign of a proof of concept, or they were just made for the love of them. It was like Chowchilla, people were kind of talking to us about expanding it. And it was kind of like the bold move at the time, to just say, maybe it's just a short film. And that's rad. Like, that's super cool. Like, just let's let it exist in the world of film as a short. That's it, as opposed to like, oh yeah, well, maybe it exists we tried it, and it just feels like you're taking an idea and, stretching it too thin almost.
To go back real quick to what you said earlier, I could tell we're in the same generation because you referenced ska music.
Oh yeah.
But that's super awesome. I was just on a rant on the last podcast we had about like, it's okay to make something and have it end, and it exists as the thing that you made, and if people love it, great, and if they want to like wonder about what happened after and yada yada, they can do that. But like, if you didn't have a plan for after or before, then you don't need to scramble to get a plan and patch everything together and make your thing worse. So no, I much respect to you for, you guys are like, what, it exists as this, and that's all we need to do. Like, I just appreciate the shit out of that. Like, that is really what I feel like people just do too much. Is like they're like, oh, I can make more money. Well then, let's do this thing, instead of just making a good piece of art and letting it be itself.
I'm just really impressed. We recently interviewed a short film director who made We Die Alone, and I was just really impressed with what people who make short films can fit into 22 minutes. Like you said, I watched that 22-minute movie, and I'm like, this is almost like this could be part of an anthology TV show, but it's so much, it's more than what an anthology episode of television would be. And it's so much is fit into 22 minutes. It is so impressive because it's really hard to introduce characters, have a full arc, and then end the story relatively well. And I respect short film.
Yeah, it was a world that I knew very little about. I think if I would be on like a flight to Canada, I would see a couple short films that were like on the in-flight visual system or whatever. But and when you make them, you get into the film festival world, which is wild too. But it is really cool when you get on like a rad block and you get to see all these filmmakers doing something. And it reminds me of being in a band and playing, and you kind of jam out and meet other bands, other filmmakers, what their style is, what they're doing. And there's just, it's rad when you can have that mutual respect from like a creative level, because it's an art form at the end of the day. And at that point, it feels very much like an art form. And as you climb further up the ladder, it's harder to hold on to that memory, and the best people are able to do that and hold on to that creativity. But it like we're talking about, it can get like sucked away, and then the final project could be pretty thin. So
let's backtrack a little bit. Where is this party about?
So
and again, where can we find it?
So Where's This Party is on a website actually called where'sthisparty.com. You can also get all my stuff on it's christophercandy.com. Is I have kind of like a main hub where you can kind of get everything that I've kind of worked on. Again, it was my friend Garen, who I worked with. We were in this acting class and we just gelled as friends, and it was like, let's do something. And it was just like, that was the question. Let's just do something. And I obsess over very weird details, elements, tones, And growing up in LA and it kind of being exposed to like, you know, a glitzier side of LA from time to time, I would see like the bizarreness to what Beverly Hills is. Like there is this bizarreness to it where it's like on the outside looking in, it's like, oh, it's the fanciest neighborhood in the world, right? But there's all of these like what's the right way to put this? These like weird lowlifes who kind of also like all hang out at like hotel bars there, and they've got the fake tan, and maybe they like, you know the producer of, you know, Under Siege, or, you know, they're like, it's like very rooted in the 80s and the 90s. And I was like, what if we did a show with like these two Hollywood low life producer director types? They're a couple, and the show is they're going and they're meeting someone at one weird Hollywood event, and they're driving them to another Hollywood event. So they pick up, you know, a wardrobe, a wardrobe stylist at a SAG-AFTRA event, and they're giving that person a ride home, or they're heading to, an after party at, Mickey Rourke's house or something like that. And what would it, and then what if these two were trying to get something out of the person in the back seat? So we had it where these two were, Richard and Lou were the couple, and Richard had written a movie called Red Rover. And Red Rover was about a dog that witnesses a murder. And they're trying to get whomever it is to invest, be a part of it, get them in touch with Tom Hanks, get them, whoever it is, to get them access. And so I went and I went to a tanning salon and got a full tan, like a full, like, I think that I said, I went to this tanning salon called Ibiza Tan in Los Angeles. It's not there anymore. And I said, I'm doing a comedy and I need the ugliest looking tan I can get, like the craziest one. And they said, you must mean the Mediterranean look. And I was like, okay. So
we know the one.
Yeah. They spray tanned me, and I was like, it looked insane. And then on top of it, I had like a Caesar wig, that like a George Clooney kind of Caesar wig. And then my partner, my wife in the show, Garen, she was Lou, and she kind of looked like a Kardashian, like a Kris Kardashian kind of look. And the guy's kind of like, listen here, buddy. All right, when I was working on the movie, when I was up at Mickey Rourke's house when we were doing shots, I didn't see you there, and it was just very smooth talker, really fucking insulting. Like, this is all pre-Trump stuff too, and there is stuff pre-Trump, pre-Me Too, everything. And it was like me at the time going like, these people exist and they're so insulting, and it's all for comedy. I don't know if those characters exist at the moment right now, but at the time I was like, oh my God, this guy's like a Trump almost. He really is. He's so nasty, but he's got a heart of gold. So anyways, the show is great. We got to work with a lot of awesome people, like, because it was so easy. We filmed it all on a GoPro. We just needed a sound package, and I would just hit up friends, and I would be like, it started, TV actors, film actors. We got Will Sasso on an episode. Dan Levy was on an episode. And we would just develop the characters more. First was them pitching Red Rover. Second season was Red Rover was being made and they were kicked off the set. So it was them driving to set. The third season was they don't have a pot to piss in, and they're drivers at the Burbank International Film Festival, and then we did a holiday episode. So, we just I followed the arcs of TV shows, and just, that's what it was.
Are you pretty good friends with Dan Levy?
Yeah, Dan and I are totally cool. I grew up with his family and our families being really close. So I remembered when I was a kid hanging out with him a few times, and then over the years have reconnected, and he's such a nice guy. Yeah, I'm really, really happy for the success and that Schitt's Creek had. And they're just that whole family, his sister Sarah and his parents are just really lovely, beautiful souls.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek blew up. Like, that was. I heard the premise. I was like, this could be funny. I love Eugene Levy, but I didn't think that it would, we'd get what we got.
Right. Yeah. When I saw the Emmys, I was like, oh my God.
Right?
Like, was there anything else up for an Emmy? Like, I didn't were they just running solo the whole time?
It was sucks for anybody else nominated for a comedy anything.
I had one friend call, he's like, this show's winning everything. These guys are cool, right? And I'm like, dude, they're the best. They absolutely deserve everything. It was yeah. And I'm fortunate with my father's world, and being able to be around these people and throughout my life. And I couldn't be luckier in a sense of getting to see some of these people work up close, and it's awesome. Catherine O'Hara is one of the funniest human beings on planet Earth.
There's something that makes me absolutely happy to hear that you and Dan Levy are really close.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
We are, yeah. He's a busy guy these days, but he's definitely someone who returns a text and is always super nice. So,
I got to ask you about 6 Feet Apart. It came out this year.
6 Feet Apart. Oh God, yeah. Okay. So 6 Feet Apart isn't out yet. It's in post-production. Okay. And it is basically a show. It's a movie. This project, quarantine happens, and we all go into lockdown. And about 2 weeks into the lockdown, my friend JJ, she texts me and she says, "Are you interested in doing a feature film during the lockdown?" And I said, "Sure." No one can come in here. And I live in like a pretty small studio in LA. And they said, no, we're gonna drop a camera off, a lighting package and a sound package, and we're gonna do this film. It's gonna be like 2 weeks. It'll be awesome. Okay, cool. So I meet this woman, Jessa Zabruka, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, and she's a writer director, and she is really, really kind, really, really talented. She says that her partner, her boyfriend, has this production house in Los Angeles with a ton of gear. Are you interested? Sure. What's it about? Well, it's like a rom-com about a couple that live in the same building and they fall for each other. They matched on a dating app and they never followed through with it. And then they realized they live in the same building and it's the day before lockdown. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. My character is myself, more or less, but a very, very nervous, germophobic hypochondriac, always getting in his own way. Character's name's Chris. And I embarked on what was like a 6-month process of making a film because I had to do everything. We had a DP and a director on a Zoom call. And then I had to set the camera, set the shot up, make sure it was in focus. I would go around and I would, videotape with my cell phone, the image that I had pre-recorded to set up the shot. It would take maybe an hour and a half to set up a shot sometimes, and you get 1 or 2 takes. And it's a functional kind of film in regards to the medium. We use Zoom recording, cell phone recording, and very nice camera film or digital film, and it all hybrids together. And so I'm really excited to see it. I think she's right now just finishing. I know the edit's locked, and I know she's in sound and color right now. So that's something that we're hoping to get out pretty soon. That's a great film. I was happy with that one too because I got to put some friends in that one, people I worked with in acting class. Nanan Visser, I think that's her last name. I'm saying it, but she was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, I believe, was the show. Yeah, so got random people in it, but it was all like labor of love, super fun getting people in the mix, and ended up getting a feature film out of quarantine. So.
That's awesome. I've been really digging. People have been really creative with the format of Zoom.
Totally. Yeah. It's in a time where everyone was like not sure what was going to happen. We all figured it out. We figured out a way to talk to people, communicate, make things.
And that's really cool too. Like you said, it's very multi-format, but you had to do, now you're wearing 4 hats because like you gotta set up all your own stuff. So like that's really interesting to me. Like, do you feel like you've grown more from that, like just because you had to do all these things?
Sure. Yeah, and it makes you appreciate. I always have, but it really makes you appreciate like when it's a collective effort. Everyone's really working together to make a thing. And I did sound out of college, so I always had an appreciation for sound. But even from the actor to the writer to the director to the lighter to the gaffer to the grip to all of these things, they all play like a pretty crucial role. And I think I was just very humbled, and I also, it was like a big testament to patience, because you just had to have it, because we were birthing the baby as it was coming. We'd never know. We were one of the first productions period that was working, and we were like, we would get notes from people on other shows that were like big shows, and they would be like bumping into the same problems we were bumping into. So I'm really happy for that one to come out. But I'm happy it's also taking its time in order to get the edit and the sound right. We don't have the money like a Netflix or anything like that. So.
Trying to get that Hulu money.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she's able to sell it. That's a good thing. We're in a moment right now where people are just open to buying things. So I have a sense that it will find a nice home when it's packaged and ready to go.
Yeah, it's any sort of media is, I think, at a premium right now, just because people are you've watched everything. You've had all the time to sit at home and watch all this stuff, but now what? It's pretty crazy. How have you been? Obviously you've been working a little bit during the pandemic. How have you been? During all this craziness.
Dude, I've been like riding all the fucking feelings, man. It's like I think that's the trick with this. It's like I'm a runner, so I'm like, once I felt and figured out how to like do that safely, and I realized I could run with a mask on and all that stuff, I was able to that was crucial, just get out there and hit that up. And then we're in a surge right now in LA, so it's like it's a little different right now. Like everyone's a bit more precautious in regards to how they're getting out there and what they're doing. A lot of people aren't doing Thanksgivings together and all of that. It's a different time, but I look back on it going I was really fortunate this summer. I got to go to my nephew's birthday. I got to have a small little backyard birthday. My mom, we did a backyard thing. It makes those moments even more precious and cool. But then dude, the first couple months were brutal. It was and I was just fortunate that I kicked into writing mode and podcast mode and film mode to do stuff. So
are you doing your own podcast?
I do. Yeah. I have one called Bumper to Bumper with Rick Darge, the guy who directed Chowchilla. And initially it was a show where we were driving around in LA. And he was in his car and I was in my car, and we would do the podcast in bumper to bumper, gridlock traffic. I have to do something in a car always. I don't know what the fuck that is, but, it started there, and we'd get some guests and they'd come in the car and we'd interview them. And it was an hour-long podcast. And then when this all started, it turned into a weekly, let's cheer everybody up, radio style podcast. Doesn't really get to anything. It's just a bunch of guys kind of talking.
That's how our podcast is typically, just us talking about nothing.
It's great though, because some people need structure, and then other people just want to put something on the background and listen, and I totally love those. They're calming for me when I can just listen to people kind of have a convo.
Yeah, we don't even talk to each other during the week. We just wait until it's recording time.
These are the topics. Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Save it. Yeah. So do you got a few more minutes?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about your improv days.
Sure.
You did improv at Groundling, Second City, and Upright Citizens Brigade. Those are some big places.
Right. So the main school I went to learn was UCB, And they have a 4-level program over there where you basically learn how to do the Herald. And then I took class over at Groundlings. I just took one class over there, and primarily on my IMDb, I just put that there just so if casting directors see it, they know that you're trained or have taken classes. And then with Second City, I've been over there prior to all of this going through, and I was on a couple teams over there, and I was getting coached by coaches over there on this team Dazzle, and then I started my own show over there called Live from the Hollywood Room. So I was performing over there pretty regularly. But I studied there, but I remember I had this improv coach, this guy named Johnny Meeks, and he was my kind of first improv coach I had, where I was able to just kind of ask him, like, how do you do this? Like I know how to be in a band because I've been in bands forever, but how do you do this? And he just said, this is what you do, man. Take the class and then find a team and start in practicing, get a coach maybe, and then do the Herald like 1,000 times. And then basically when I reconnected with my friend Rick Darge, he said, I have a practice team that's going on. And then we started a team called the Beach Bunnies. And it was, a bunch of friends, and we started an indie team basically. And I cut my teeth pretty hard with them because we had tried a bunch of different coaches, and and we just played all the indie spots around LA. And for me, that was a very awesome time. It was like 2 years of my life where it was like every Saturday night we'd go play this one show and then go to bars and hang out, and it was super duper fun. And I really learned a lot just from getting up there and doing it like a billion times, kind of like what my teacher had said. But up till now, I was at Second City, and I was just exclusively there playing with the Dazzle team, and then with Jason and doing Live from the Hollywood Room.
What is the Herald?
So the Herald is basically it is a structured improv where it's got several beats that are going on in it. So it's like you have your first beat of a scene. So it's a specific structure. So it's like 3 levels, or I guess 5 levels, and it's like 3 first beat scenes, a group game. The second scenes are revisited in the second beats, basically. Then another group game, and then the third beats. And the third beats, the scenes can tie anything together. So if I'm in the first round of a scene and I start a scene where I am a chef and I'm cooking, and I'm arguing with my brother, we could take that argument, we could take that relationship, we could take the same characters, and in the second beat, develop that same scene, or have another scene about fighting brothers, or have another scene about whatever. And that would be the second beat. And then the third beat, I could take anything from anywhere and try and connect those dots. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Basically it's a way of structuring story. And it's just one way to do improv. It's I haven't done it in a long time. But the improv I was doing primarily towards the end was like a short form and a long form, where you just do various scenes. It can have a bunch of different structures. You can do whatever you want with it. And but the Herald was basically that. And UCB, that's their structure from what I understand, and from what I took away from it, is they're going to teach you how to do the Herald, and you go through 4 levels of learning how to do that. And then there's their theaters, they'll have a Herald night where you get to see a Herald perform, or they'll have a short form night or whatever. And so, yeah, I've kind of, it's fun when comedy was really up and going before all of this. It was nice to bounce around to a bunch of different theaters and perform and do all kinds of things.
That's what I miss most during this pandemic is comedy. Max and we braved the storm to go to the comedy club here to watch Josh Wolf. And yeah, I realized like how much I actually missed it because it got me out of the house. I have not really left my house since this whole COVID thing started.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much home. I don't want to get sick. My mom just got over cancer. So, and she still insists on seeing me. So I'm trying to keep my distance from as many people as possible. But I couldn't not go. Like I wanted to go to the comedy club so bad. It was like 4 months after the pandemic started, and I was starting to itch to get out.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And like you have like Dave Chappelle doing his thing out in the cornfield in northern Ohio.
Yeah.
It's like you don't realize how much you need. Like that like when we were there and just laughing and having a good time. Like it's amazing how much you miss. Like you don't even realize you miss it that much until you get a little taste of it back. But no, it was good. Do you feel like improv? Like I dabble in stand-up comedy, but do you feel like improv is sort of like that, where it's like it's easy to not hit and very hard to just carry it along the whole time? Because
sure,
I find that very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think improv and stand-up are both very different things. Right. A lot of people think that there's a similarity to them because it's under the veil of comedy, right? And I think I hosted a comedy show once where I had to write jokes, but I realized that I'm not a stand-up, and I really respect stand-ups, because it's like they dedicate their whole life to this art form, and it's the same for improv too. Like you have to dedicate. I always say that improv's like a yoga practice. You're going to do it. You could potentially be doing it your whole life. So it's like there's going to be times, even when you're like at the top of your game, that your hips might still be super tight, because you haven't done it in a while. So yeah, you could be like really good and still suck, in improv. And that's kind of what I like about it. And that's, I think, the same in stand-up. I think from what I understand with stand-up, it's like you got to get into the rhythm and the beat of your jokes and the architecture of your joke and all that and your set. And in improv, you have to be really attentive, paying attention in the moment. All these big concepts and words people throw at you at classes and schools that like don't fucking hit me when I first hear them. But it isn't until like this one coach, this guy Jason, who I did my show with at Second City, he just explained it so well and about tension relief. And it's like, I think that this relates to all performance, but it's like the audience is nervous when someone walks onto stage. They're just like nervous. They're kind of like, all right, what are you going to do? Unless they have faith in you, unless you're like, a huge comedian, you know what I mean? And so if you're just a nobody or a random improv team, the audience is like, haha, yeah, all right. Like, and it's the job of the performer to play with that tension, but really relax everybody and with confidence say like, hey, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. No, and we all know what we're doing. And in improv, we got each other's backs. We're going to watch out for each other. We are going to do our very best to make this funny. And once you get past that element, which a lot of teams miss, and I missed for years, of just like letting everybody know we got this, we're going to perform in front of you, then you can start playing with things. And then you can start playing with the pressure and the tension. And then that's where it could get tricky. A lot of people, I think, jump to the tricky stuff first, which is cool. But, the audience won't be on board. I went to a stand-up night here, actually. And it was at an outdoor event. And I was so surprised. There's some comedians who got it and they were just like, no, everyone's been locked in. I'm just going to please everybody. And then there were some comics who were like trying really difficult material. And I was like, no one was laughing. And I was like, oh man, but that's a stand-up. They want to try. They got to keep working it, and that's the art of it. So, I do know what you're talking about in regards to that feeling of shakiness because I felt it all the time. I still do. I just think with improv over the times, I've kind of gone like, I think I've got a few little tricks in my back pocket that if it's going south, I can like always turn on like a blowhard, car salesman. All right, everybody. I always like in an improv scene, I always pretend to smoke a cigarette. And I think that I don't smoke, but I think it's because like that's me like calming myself down. So I'll be on stage. You guys watch Westworld last night? And then the audience goes, oh, okay, car salesman, having a break, talking about Westworld, whatever. I don't know. That's my little cheat.
That's great, though. I smoke a fake cigarette to make myself feel better.
Yeah. What the hell are you talking about, buddy? No.
I got one more question for you. I used to watch this show every week. You were involved with supplying the voice for Camp Candy.
Yeah.
I want to know, what was that like going into the vocal booth at such a young age?
Well, that's like a different lifetime ago, but it's still a part of my journey, man. My dad, created this show in the height of animation in the early 90s, and I think it was late 80s, early 90s, and he was really, when I look back on his career, he was doing a radio show, he had an animation, he was owner of a Canadian football team. He was really spreading himself out there as a successful businessman, entertainer, whatever you want to call it. And he went into animation and Camp Candy. I think he did it partially for my sister and I, because we were both kids and we were obsessed with Saturday morning cartoons like we all were. I think he saw that. And but then on top of it, I think he really wanted to tell stories about camp, and when you watch those, it's just, pretty basic, right? A funny camp with kids. And, so then it just got to a point where he had such a big heart, and I think he just wanted to involve us. I think it was fun for him, and it wasn't intimidating at all, because he was such a, he was a dad, he wasn't Mr. Perfect, but he was definitely like, had a big heart, and when I look back on that time, it wasn't nerve-wracking at all. And I remember him showing the character that I ended up playing. I saw the animation. I was just thought that was so cool. And I was just, man, I have to say, to share my time on Earth with him and have him be my dad, I was super fucking lucky, man. And it's a beautiful thing. And so I think of moments like that, and where his generosity and his heart just shine through really brightly.
Yeah, I love that show, and I was really happy to find out you were a part of it and your sister was a part of it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, we had a farm up in Canada. I mean, we still have land, but there's no house on it anymore. But he would film the bumper spots on the property. So he was always very much trying to, and I understand that, but he wanted to ground his productions in his reality around him, and make involve people, and be open and helpful and collaborative with people. So he had bought this farm with my mom when he was doing at a Second City, and this was before anything. And then next thing he knows, he's filming spots for Camp Candy there in the early 90s. So he was cool that way, man. I respect that, and I love that. But yeah, it was a fun show, Camp Candy.
It was. I was flipping through YouTube the other day, and somebody had it on there.
Dude, one of the funny things I was noticing with that was it's a part of the Marvel comic universe.
Is it?
It's a part of the MCU, because they did Camp Candy comic books, and Camp Candy is part of it. And I was going like, in the end scene of Endgame, I'm like, oh man, that would have been fucking real deep. I think I tweeted something like, the only person to survive the Thanos snap was the Camp Candy.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. Super.
Yeah, I just realized that. I remember my friend pointed it out, actually. Fletcher.
I'm gonna start that Twitter thing. Hashtag Chris Candy for the MCU.
Yeah, dude, get that.
I think, it didn't trend, but I noticed. I was like, whoa, okay, interesting. Anyway.
Max, did you have any questions?
No, I'm just like awestruck a little bit. Like it's I'm just very appreciative to have you on, man. You've been super cool.
Oh, dude, yeah. I when you reached out, I can't remember. Was it through some story went out or something like that? I know you all of a sudden kind of showed up.
It was after your dad's birthday's anniversary. I was doing research on them, and I realized that you and your sister were in the business, and I started looking at your IMDb, and I'm like, man, they seem fascinating. So I reached out to both of you.
Oh, cool. I'll let Jen know. I'm sure she's I'm sure she would love to hop on the show.
But I have something I want to talk to you about after the broadcast. But where can everybody find you online?
It's Chris Candy for you on Twitter and Chris Candy forever on Instagram, and then ChristopherCandy.com is all my website stuff, and you'll be able to navigate through all the stuff we were talking about on those sites.
Well, I think I can speak for Max when I say you've got 2 fans here for life. Thank you
Big
so
fans.
much for coming on the podcast.
Really respect that, guys. Yeah, that's super nice, and yeah, I love talking shop. It's so fun.
And everybody, the links to all of Chris's stuff will be in the description of this audio or this video. And thank you guys so much for checking us out.
Recycle your droids.